What's going on, family? It's your boy G Conscious in the building. Y'all see what time it is. We back at it to win it. But yeah, we make sure this putting out properly. Yeah, man, in the Bible, Jesus. I know I ain't been on here in a little minute, but I'm on now. All right, so let's see. It's been a little minute since I've been on here, but hey, hallelujah. Let's see something. All right. All right, that's cool right there. What up, Andrew? How you doing, brother? I know it's been a little minute since I've been on here. So I'm just doing some things. Something. What up, MJ? How you doing? What up, Nashawn? What's going on with you, brothers? Let's see. Sure it is. Yeah, man, I was on this show, right? And let's see. All right, so I was on this show, right? And I wanna, although I've been hanging for Matt Slick show, it's been a little while since I was on here too. Yeah, it's been a little minute, man. But I wanted to speak on something, right? I was on this show, right? And the show is called Inside the Nation Radio Talk Show. And this is in response to a debate that they had. It was So Real, BG, Brian Garcia, and a couple of other brothers, Israelite guys on and Abiyah was on there, you know what I'm saying? And I'm friends with him on Facebook, but I don't have Facebook, but I was with him. What's up, Rogaine? And so the topic was law versus grace, the follow up. And so he did a follow up show. And so I think that, you know what I'm saying, we definitely need to make sure that we understand to when we say the new covenant or New Testament as Christian believers, we're not talking about that we are lawless, you know what I'm saying? Um, we're talking about we're under the New Testament terms, conditions, and penalties, and the blessings and or promises, or everything that comes with the New Testament package. Now, the moral law is something that is there, like that's standard. That does not stop with God. That's God's moral character, and we share part of that ourselves because we have joint knowledge or a conscience. The Gentiles, which have not the law, do the things contained in the law. And so, how do they do things contained in the law? Their conscience. They have a conscience. And what is conscience? The prefix con means joint or with, and then science knowledge. So, you have joint knowledge. So, this is the morality that you have is embedded in you, which you can corrupt that conscience because the Bible says some people corrupt their conscience with a hot iron. And so, I'm listening to the brothers, you know what I'm saying? They going back. And so, I usually, they had my name, they've been trying to get in contact with me. And mind you now, they try to get in contact with me through Sheik Ativa. Now, I don't really mess with Sheik Ativa, you know what I'm saying? So if you're trying to contact me, you got to contact me through the brothers who I deal with, you know what I'm saying? Which he said he went to So Real and also Brian, you know what I'm saying, as well as Sheik Ativa. Which it never got back to me. I'm saying, and so I seen that my name was put on the list to be in there to be to be debating, and they had Shield Squad. Well, I am no longer with Shield Squad, and so I was just listening to these brothers, and I want to really correct some things. Now, the brother, he said I can't use his video to correct him. I don't know why I can't use his video to correct him, because anybody can use my video. If you feel that I'm saying something wrong, use my video. You know what I'm saying? And let me send Matt an invite. And I feel like, what I'm saying, the brother was doing a lot of dishonest stuff, man, like stuff that we don't really even do, you know what I'm saying? Like stuff that we don't do, you know what I'm saying? And you know, I'm the type to where I challenge what people be dealing with. You know what I'm saying? Like if you say that you know this law, you know the terms, conditions, the penalties, you know the ins and outs of it. I want to challenge you to that. And I felt like that when we try to challenge these brothers to that, they have so much to say when we're not in the presence, or but when we get on the panel with them, it's like, oh, let's hurry up and get them off the panel so I can say what I got to say, you know what I'm saying? Or I had to be grouped up in order to be able to deal with these brothers, you know what I'm saying? And I think that, yeah, she's something else. I think that a lot of that has to be addressed. Now, the brother's a cool brother, but I just think his understanding is real, how do you say it? It's real, mm, how do well, I'm gonna say that his understanding is not really there like that. You could tell that, if he really looked at some things, maybe he'll get it, but he should get it because we deal with contracts all day long. I put the link in the chat room, so real. So I ain't seen you click in yet, but let me know the link is in the chat room. So if you deal with contracts, which we always do in handling business, agreements, terms and conditions, even when you sign these little programs like apps and stuff like that, they have agreements, they have terms, they have different things, conditions to these very contracts. And you say, I agree. That's a contract. And so the moment you start to break those things, you are in violation of those things. Now, they try to straw man Christians and try to say, well, Christians they don't teach the law, and that's why it's a lot of homosexuality. That's why it's a lot of adultery and fornication. No, I would say that the majority of what we see in the church is a lot of wickedness going on. But the majority of what you see in the world, there's a lot of wickedness going on. For instance, we can go back and forth, but that's not the case. But you can't just make a broad statement to where you say that like that and not really deal with, you don't really deal with the Hebrew Israelites, with the rape, I'm saying, the murder, you know what I'm saying? All of these different things, the homosexuality going on within the Israelite community. I'm saying these are things that is going on in the world. This is why Israel was scattered in the first place. So, what I'm saying? Like, a lot, I don't know why that stuff like that even brought up, because we're not teaching people to be lawless. And the moral law has come over into the New Testament. But there's certain things, if you're saying, like when you make a broad statement and you say the New Testament has not started yet, stuff like that, that really shows that you unlearned, especially when we read a scripture to you and show you that the New Testament has started and that it is in force. And then you don't even get it. You just jump somewhere else and say it's not in force. You know what I'm saying? And the scriptures is clearly showing you that he shed his blood, and after he shed his blood, the testament was in force, and giving you Jeremiah 31 to let you know that is a partial fulfillment. And reason why it's partially fulfilled is because Israel did not accept the terms and the conditions of the New Testament, which was Christ, who was the chief cornerstone, and they rejected him. And so therefore, because they didn't accept it, when they do in the future accept it, there will be no need to tell nobody to know the Lord. Why? Because all will know the Lord. Why? Because the fullness of Israel would have come in then. I'm saying this is clear. And you know, I want to bring out a couple of scriptures, man, because I think it's very important to where we really understand and know the go-to of these brothers when they start pulling out scriptures, what they dealing with, and to show that they lacking in some type of understanding of these very scriptures. I'm saying, and one of the things I wanted to bring up was what's going on, Matt?
Hey, what's going on, bro?
Chilling, chilling. Yeah, it was just just having fun over there, man. You know how it go. But and this
Go
is
ahead,
all for
man. Go ahead. Go ahead.
edification purposes. This ain't, what I'm
Yeah.
saying, like brothers is doing this for a shine. Like the brother was like, "Oh, we don't see you banging on Kemet." Like I told the brother, if you Google me, bro, like I do all of that, bro. Like we do all of that, bro. We've been on Garfield show. We've been in the conscious community. Like we just don't stop at the Israelite guys, man. We don't do that. Like I've even did work. I even do work now with Israelite brothers. So
Right. Right.
we bang on Kemet a lot, bro. So you gotta catch up to speed, bro, and really realize that what's going on, SVDL? What's going on, brother? Shalom. To know that we're not just banging on Israelites, bro. We bang on false teaching, bro. Like if you're teaching falseness and you're teaching it from a one West perspective, yeah, we're gonna deal with that. But I got the brother Surreal here. I wanted to go over some of these things, brother. And then I just want to go over the scripture real quick, and then I want to get your input, man, on some things what took place and ask you about that debate you had the other night. But one of the things that was mentioned was here was Galatians 3 and Galatians 3 and 19. The brother kept going to. He says, "Wherefore then serveth the law? It was added because of transgression." Now, when I asked the brother, when was it added? This brother say the law was added in when Adam sinned in the garden. And even some other Israelite brothers was like, nah, bruh, like that ain't right. Now, clearly, this brother, if he would have went to the passage and would have read the whole chapter, would have read 17, he probably would have got a better understanding, because Paul telling you when the law was added. And then also Christ also tells you that Moses gave you the law. And so he would have known this. But they gonna go to other scriptures like Abraham had my law, kept my law, my statutes and commandments. They think that's talking about the law of Moses. That's not what that's talking about. When you look at Torah, look up the word Torah. It means teachings, instructions. Whether not if that's a look, go preaching to Nineveh, that is a instruction that God has given you. So that is law. So just because you see law, commandments, and statutes, don't think every time you see it that it's talking about the law of Moses. You'll be out of pocket doing that. Every word from God is Torah, it's teachings, it's instructions, it's for correction. I'm saying it's inspiration. So I don't know why these guys don't understand that. Now, I asked the brother, I said, when was it added? Right? He couldn't tell me that. I mean, he told me that he didn't get that right. But it tells you in 17, it says, "And this I say, that the covenant that was confirmed before of God in Christ the law, which was 430 years after." After what? After the covenant, the promise, cannot disannul that it should make the promise of none effect. Now, clearly, there's a distinction from the promise and also from the law of Moses, which was added 430 years after. He's saying that this cannot disannul the promise. The law cannot disannul the promise. That's what he's saying. That it should make the promise of none effect. For if the inheritance be of the law, it is no more a promise. So the inheritance is not even by the law, but God gave it to Abraham by promise. If the inheritance was by the law, then the firstborn should be due to inheritance according to the law. But that's not the case. This is why Paul in Romans 9 begins to talk about the second born, which was Jacob, and also Isaac. In Isaac shall thy seed be called, not Ishmael, because Ishmael was the firstborn. And the text clearly states, it says, if you have a woman that is hated, but she has a firstborn child, you cannot make her to inherit as the second born child. That child has to be the firstborn according to the law. That's what the law says. But it's clear that it was by promise and not by the law. And so when we look at the promise is mentioned in Galatians. So why would this brother not understand and then say that the sacrifices is all he's talking about? Well, how is he just talking about the sacrifices when I just read to you in Galatians chapter 3 and 10, when it says, for as many are of the works of the law are under the curse. For it is written, curses everyone that continueth not in all things. Is that just the sacrifices? It says, which are written in the book of the law to do them. Is the sacrifices just the only thing that's written in the book of the law? No, of course not. So he's not just talking about the sacrifices. And then when you go to 8, it says, and the scripture foreseeing that God will justify the heathen through faith preached before the gospel unto Abraham, saying that in thee shall all the nations be blessed. So who is he talking about? He's talking about Genesis 12 and 3 concerning the nations that will be blessed, that God will justify the heathen. But how is the heathen being justified? By the gospel, according to the promise, not according to the law, because the law was not justify or blessing the heathen. Understand that. And so I don't know why these brothers can't get it, man. It's real simple, man. What's going on, Black Hebrew Israelism Critique? What's going on, Elder Yara? Shalom. So this is simple. And so as believers, we're not saying that we're lawless. No, we're telling you that the moral construct of God still stands. A person cannot be fornicating, cannot be committing adultery, homosexuality, all of those things that are written in the law as well as the epistles of the New Testament, that still stands. God's moral character does not change. Now, is there things that is in the law that needs to be addressed, that is contrast to the New Testament? Definitely. In the law of Moses, there are things that are contrast to the New Testament. And for instance, he talks about the Passover. You cannot judge another man for a Passover that you not keeping according to the law of Moses, nor circumcision that you're not keeping according to the law of Moses. If you don't know, the brother said he did. The brother says he said that they was doing the Passover before they came into the land. But if you read the scriptures, he says after you come into the land, the place where I bring or place my name at, you must offer there, and you can't go nowhere else. So clearly you have not read the scriptures and you a babe in this thing, but that's all right, bro. It's still time to grow because we all still learning, but it's time for us to get past certain things that is surface level. And I think that these brothers ain't really doing that. But I just wanted to kind of reiterate on that real quick, and then I'm gonna ask so real some questions on what took place in that so real what took place in that conversation you had with them brothers over there. Man, I seen a little bit of it, you know what I'm saying? Uh what was the deal with that, man? And how did you feel after you got done with that?
I mean, man, like the deal was, I was already like pretty much in a different kind of level when it came to, I guess, just debate, because I've been talking about this stuff for 10 years. And so really the whole thing was I was really supposed to go ahead and talk to Judah Mack. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you. For the whole week, I was thinking to myself, I had this feeling that he wasn't going to show up. A lot of times, I know for a fact that, like, when people don't know about me, they'll immediately look at my videos. When they look at my videos, you know, they either show up or they don't. And so, for whatever reason, he chose not to show up. And the only three other people that were there were just these three other dudes I never heard of before. And so they allowed me to go first. And I just basically I went about it in a very different way. I just basically just stuck with Matthew 5 the whole time. That's all. I just wanted to show that you are not to keep the law of Moses under the new covenant. You're not to keep the ceremonial law of Moses. And I broke down Matthew 5 the whole way through. The moment it was their turn, they didn't even stick on topic. When I seen that, I was like, oh, okay, I know who I'm dealing with. And so it's like you're gonna have to do like a lot more teaching and rebuttaling than you are actually gonna have like a building conversation. So that's like the kind of brothers I was really dealing with. And so the thing that kind of made me feel some type of way, even though I still had to keep my composure and just, stay cordial and respectful and things, and just try to have a building conversation for the audience and benefit from, was that even though they would like go off topic, they would say I'm off topic. Or they would, just basically say a lot of opinions about me versus me. I'm just giving scripture and I'm just responding to stuff. I'm not talking about what I think about them. You know what I'm saying? And so I begin to ask them very key questions like, if I don't keep the Sabbath, will I go to hell? And they wouldn't give me a straight answer. And so I had to keep on rephrasing the question. I had to chase them down a little bit to finally get them to give me like a yes or no answer. And after a while, I do admit, like when you listen to the video, it did get a little silly because I would ask them things. Well, you know, if I want to get to heaven, how can I get to heaven if you're saying that Jesus only died for Israelites and I'm a Gentile? And they basically said, well, you have to go ahead and come under us so that way you will be where we're at. And I asked him, I said, well, are you saying that I can go ahead and be in heaven because I do what you all say and I cling on to you all as a nation? And they said, yes. And I said, so what you're saying is I could go ahead and be in heaven without the blood of Christ. I could simply just follow you and do what you do and somehow cling on to you and I'll be in heaven. They say, yes, you'll be our servants. I said, okay, well, wow. So I don't need the blood of Jesus and I'll just be in heaven forever. And they said, well, no, you'll be in heaven 3 times a year. I said, okay, so if I'm only in heaven 3 times a year, um, during that time when I'm not in heaven, where will I go? And once again, like I said, they would skate around. And then eventually they said, well, I said, will I be in hell? And basically you could tell they didn't believe in hell. You could just tell. They wouldn't answer the question. And after that, they just said, well, look, you'll just be in the kingdom. You'll just be with us and things. And it went to Isaiah 14. And, I basically refuted that. And it was sad because, the host was saying, hey, we need to be on topic. And for me, it was like, yeah, I do want to be on topic. You know what I mean? But I admit at the same time, you do get a little curious about certain things that they bring up. So you naturally ask questions. And so it's like I wanted to stay on topic. And so I just stuck with my rebuttals and my opening statement to stay on topic. But like I said, when we ended up going into like a dialogue, that's when we like really got off topic. And mainly it was because of the things we were bringing up. And I think the reason why they brought up all the stuff they brought up was because they didn't really have a real defense of saying, hey, you need to keep the law. They didn't have a defense at all. So they just went on a tirade about things they're passionate about and about things that they preach a lot about, which was not on topic. You know what I'm saying? I would ask them, is a new covenant here? I went to Hebrews 9. I explained Hebrews 9, and I asked him, in light of this, how can you say there's not a new covenant here yet? You know, and maybe we could walk through that later on. But yeah, I would ask him all kind of things. I said, look, man, um, you know, how can you say that Jeremiah 31 isn't here yet when it really is true that all do know God from the least to the greatest who are in the covenant? You know, that promise goes to those who enter in the covenant. If you enter in a new covenant, you will know God, whether you're the least or whether you're the greatest. You'll know God. Like that's what you get when you enter it. I showed them all that. And by the end, they just said, well, you just don't know Hebrew culture. And so it was just, I mean, it
Right.
was
See,
sad.
what I think is the problem is this is that when you
Yeah.
say that what they their answers to that, like, let's go there real quick. Is
Okay.
is like, because this is the question that was posed to Sakari always posed this question. This is Hebrews 8:1, right? Okay, so
Uh-huh.
when you look at the text, see on screen.
Yeah. Yeah. I see. Yeah.
All right, so if you look at it, verse 9, it says, "Not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day when I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Egypt, because they continued not in my covenant, and I regarded them not, saith the Lord. But this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, said the Lord. I will put my laws or teachings or instructions in their mind and write them in their hearts. And I will be to them a God, and they shall be to me a people." Now, clearly, we see that Christ said he was going to give them the Spirit, right? What up, Eber? He says he was going to give them the Spirit, right? God bless you, brother. He said, "What up, Movie Joey?" He said he will give them the Spirit, and when the Spirit is come, he shall teach them and give them instructions. And so when you look at this, is what they hung up on right here. And they shall not teach every man his neighbor. So basically, he's saying that the teaching part, men are still teaching each other, and every man his brother, saying, Know the Lord. For all shall know me, from the least to the greatest. And so what they saying is the all should know, and also the teaching. So because we see, so when it says, and they shall not, and they, he says, and they shall not teach every man his neighbor and every man his brother, saying, Know the Lord. For all shall know me, from the least to the greatest. And so they get hung up on this right here, and they try to say, well, we still teaching each other. That's the point why we are correcting each other now. You know what I'm saying?
And it's like I brought that up to them last night twice, to the host and also to the dudes I was debating. I said, look, you guys get that mixed up to the point where you got the Bible contradicting itself, because in Matthew 28, Jesus says, look, baptize them, make disciples of all nations, baptize them in the Trinity, and also teach them everything that I've commanded you. Make sure you do this. And so that's what happened. They, made disciples, they built churches, right? They made churches and things, and they taught the laws of Christ. They taught the commandments of Christ. And so you look at that, and that's different from, people no longer needing any teaching to know the Lord. Like that was the whole thing. I brought out to them that Jesus himself said, look, this is the will of my Father, that you know the one true God, the Father, and his Son, Jesus Christ. That's his will that you would know him. How do we know him? This is what I said to him last night. How do we know him? We believe in him. We get saved. We get baptized. We follow him, right? That's what it is to know him, to follow him, to love him. And yeah, when you enter the new covenant, you get all those things. You know, when you enter the covenant, you get his laws, his new covenant laws placed on your heart. You get, you know, him to be your God. You know what I mean? You also now all of a sudden now you know the Lord, right? And you don't need anyone teaching you knowing the Lord. Why? Because he said that this covenant will not be like the old covenant. I guess in the old covenant, you needed people to teach you to know the Lord. In the new covenant, you don't need anyone teaching you to know the Lord. No, you're just gonna know the Lord once you're saved, and you're gonna know Him more through your walk. Now, you're still gonna get teachings, but it's not gonna be to know the Lord. You already have that. And so that's why you have teachings all throughout the New Testament. Jesus is teaching, the apostles are teaching, everyone's teaching, but none of them are teaching you, all right, I'm going to teach you how to know the Lord. No, you're already saved. You already know the Lord. Now, the things
But
I
see
teach
what I
you, I hope it's closer to the Lord, you
right.
know, but
But see what I
yeah,
think the problem is here too also because I do agree that you're correct, but there's some partially there that has to happen too. For instance, it the house of Israel and the house of Judah, that we see that Christ came and he dealt with the house of Israel, the lost sheep of Israel, which was all of Israel, right? But there is a portion of Israel which we see in Romans chapter 11, which was blinded. And so we see there remaineth a fulfillment to be fulfilled with them. This is why, if you look at it, it says, and they shall not teach every man his brother and every man his brother, I mean, every man his neighbor and every man his brother, saying, know the Lord, for all should know me, from the least to the greatest. Watch what he says. For I will be merciful to their unrighteousness and their sins and their iniquities will I remember no more. Now, when you look at it, um, in Romans chapter 11, he says that he will come and turn away ungodliness from Jacob. But remember, Daniel also says in Daniel chapter 9, when he talks about the 6 things that must be done during the 70 weeks and how they cut off the Messiah. Now, if they cut off the Messiah, clearly the rest had to be blinded because the book of Romans also said, Romans chapter 9, remember, it says that they stumbled. It says they stumbled at the chief cornerstone, which was Christ. And if they stumbled at Christ, then there remaineth for them to be coming to the covenant. We see the first fruits received, and also the Gentiles that came in with them, they received it. But these ones was blinded and they didn't receive it, but we see that they will receive it because it says that God will turn ungodliness away from them. So when we look at the author in Hebrews, he's realizing, if you jump up verse 6, he says that this is the covenant that he was talking about, and that Christ is that covenant, and that testament is in force. I heard you read that yesterday, and so it shocked me when you read that, and these brothers were still saying the testament is not in force. But look what it says, though. It says, "But now hath he obtained a more excellent ministry, by how much also he is the mediator of a better covenant." This time about Jesus, which was established upon better promises. For if that first covenant had been faultless, then should no place have been sought for the second. So this redactor, or the author of Hebrews, realizes that Christ is the one who sets in motion or in force the New Testament that was spoke about in Genesis 31. So when they sitting here saying that it ain't in force, look at what this is saying. Finding fault with them, then he says, behold, the days coming, said the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, not according to the covenant which I made with their fathers. So he's telling them that this very covenant that we see, even when you go to the next chapter, is definitely in force. Because when you look at it, look what it says. Verse 6, Hebrews 9 and 6. Now, when these things were ordained, the priest went always into the first tabernacle, accomplishing the service of God. But into the second went the high priest alone once every year, not without blood, which he offered for himself and for the errors of the people. Now, clearly, Christ went behind the veil. Clearly, he did. It says the Holy Ghost, this signifying that the way into the holiest of all was not yet made, while as the first tabernacle was yet standing, which was a figure for the time then present, in which were offered both gifts and sacrifices that could not make him that did the service perfect as pertaining to the conscience, which stood only in meats and drinks and diverse washings and carnal ordinances imposed on them until the time of reformation, which Christ, look what it says, but
Now,
Christ,
hold on right there. Now, this is the same dude that went to Hebrews. This is a host, right? And he went to Hebrews and all the other places to always try to make the word law and sacrifice synonymous, just to say that only the sacrifices were done away with, but everything else we got to keep. Every time you see Paul talking, he's always coupling law with sacrifice. That's what the context is. But yet, read right there. It's not just talking about, you know, just sacrifices. It's talking about what? Carnal ordinances, meats and
right,
drinks. Like, do you know how many times I could show so many other scriptures that when it talks about the law, it's not just talking about sacrifice. You know what I mean? But once again, like, he don't know his word or like that. And that's why, like, I love to have conversations with that dude. I would really like, man, we should really really have a nice conversation with the host next time. Besides those brothers that I ended up talking to last night, I mean, I pray that God would, you know, help them. But it's like
it's
when it comes to
hard
the
to have
host,
a
we can
conversation
talk
with him, though.
more
You
about
know, right? You know why it's kind of hard to have a conversation with him?
it.
Because he always trying to he don't they don't want confrontation. Like if you notice, oh, we get you on the show. I'm like, I ain't really got to talk to all of them. He has to have a group of them on the panel with him. But it's and I noticed that like today we asked him, can we use his video? He wouldn't even let us use the video. And where they do that at? Like
Yeah,
you can take
I,
our videos and critique them and use them. We're not gonna flag you or nothing. Matter of fact, we'll promote your page or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Because really, we could have. You know what I'm saying? But it's like I ain't even been on here in a long time. Like I haven't even been on my live. I haven't. I
right,
haven't
right.
video in a long time. But look, if you look at it, it says, but Christ being come a high priest of good things to come by a greater and more perfect tabernacle not made with hands. That is to say, not of this building. We're gonna address that too. I see you. I see you, Drew. We're gonna deal with Hebrews 8:13. It says neither by the blood of goats and calves, but by his own blood he entered once into the holy place. So Christ, by his own blood, entered once into the holy place, having obtained a eternal redemption for us. Now, if you notice something, it says he having obtained is these saying like it's speaking like past tense, eternal redemption for us. For if the blood of bulls and goats and the ashes of heifer sprinkling the unclean sanctified the purifying of the flesh, how much more should the blood of Christ, showing you what the blood of Christ has done, who through the eternal spirit offers himself without spot to God, purge your conscience from dead works to serve the living God. Now, clearly, he have made known to you the Father and his will. And we just read to you in Jeremiah 31 that the only thing lacking is those who we see that have been blinded have not yet come in. But those who have come in, they ain't looking to I mean, the only reason why they saying no to Lord is because y'all ain't came in yet. So there's a partial fulfillment this there. Y'all, and we love y'all enemies according to the gospel. I'm saying the biblical text says. But look what it says. And for this cause, he is the mediator of the New Testament. Christ is the mediator of the New Testament. That by means of death. Now, Christ died clearly for the redemption of the transgressions that were made under the first testament. You transgress and you need to be redeemed from the first testament. The fact that you don't have the tabernacle, the book, or the vessels and the people have been scattered, the blood was on all of those things. That is a part of the covenant. You cannot separate those things. And so he says that were under the first testament, that which are called might receive promise of the eternal inheritance. Watch what he says. Key in on verse 16. This brother so real read this to y'all yesterday, and y'all act like he never read it and sat back and said the testament is not in force. That was crazy, yo. Like I was thinking in my mind, like, oh my God, like these brothers just, and you know what? We read this to this the Sakari and them and crushed them with this. We crushed them. They couldn't get past this. That's why brothers got to try to cut off, play little games.
Hebrew shuffle and the tap
Yeah,
dancing
right.
couldn't do it.
The Hebrew shuffle, shuffling everywhere, scuffling everywhere,
Hard.
flipping pages, trying to distract brothers. That's when they, all the other time they're using their phone, but then somehow, some way, they might get unmuted when you talking, and they get to flipping all these pages and scriptures and distracting people. You know what I'm saying? Shuffling through the scriptures, but it says for a testament. It says there must also. It says for where a testament is, there must also of necessity be the death of the testator. Testator. Christ died clearly. Ain't no getting away from that. Now watch when he says the testament is in force. He says, for a testament is of force after men are dead. This is Hebrews brother 9 and also 17. We in Hebrews 9 and 17, Drew. For a testament is of force after men are dead. So it's telling you, just as the testament was in force when he sprinkled the blood in the on the people and the book and the vessels and the tabernacle, that testament was in force. And he telling you here that after Christ's blood was shed, that testament was in force. For a testament is of force after men are dead. Otherwise, it is of no strength at all while the testator live. So it says, whereupon neither the first testament was dedicated without blood, for when Moses had spoken every precept to all the people, notice it says every precept to all the people, every precept that Moses spoke. This is what Paul was talking about in Galatians chapter 3 and 10 and 11, when he says, all of the things in the book, you must continue therein if you saying you under the law, not just the sacrifices. So you can't escape, it's inevitable. Look what it says. Every precept to all the people according to the law. He took the blood of the calves of the goats with water and with scarlet wool and hyssop and sprinkled both the book and all the people. Yes, that same book that Paul says. I ain't even got to go to Paul because they always want to try to say that, oh, they always go to Paul. Then after a while, they won't start, they don't like Paul no more. Oh, Paul was false. They're going to start doing that next, which some people have started doing that, which I don't understand. I don't even have to touch Paul. I can get you in the Old Testament. So real can get you in the Old Testament. We've been doing this for a little while now. We can show you how certain things of the Old Testament and the New Testament contrast. There's just certain things that is up under that testament and the New Testament that contrast each other, that you don't have no liberty,
I
even
hear
a Gentile. I'm saying, but look what this says. Took the blood of calves and goats with water and scarlet wool and hyssop and sprinkled both the book and all the people. Whatever the blood touched, that's what's in the covenant. Saying, this is the blood of the testament which God have enjoined you unto. They was enjoined, and he's showing you they was enjoined immediately after. Now, when a person came into the covenant, once they got circumcised, they was in the covenant immediately after. Look what it says. Moreover, he sprinkled with blood the tabernacle, both the tabernacle and all the vessels of the ministry. All of that is in the covenant of Moses. This is why when you look at verse well, we're gonna get with that. And almost all things about the law purged with blood, and without shedding of blood, there is no remission of sins. It was therefore necessary that the patterns of things in the heavens should be purified with these, but the heavenly things themselves with better sacrifices than these. For Christ has not entered into the holy place made with hands, which are the figures of the true, but into heaven itself, now to appear in the presence of God. Look what he says. Nor yet that he should offer himself often as the high priest entered into the holy place every year with blood of others. For then must he have then must he often have suffered since the foundation of the world. But now, once in the end of the world, have he appeared to put away sin by the sacrifice of himself. So once he sacrificed himself, and you believed on that, what he did, that redemptive work, he says, if I be lifted up, guess what? I will draw all men to him. When Moses lifted up that brazen serpent, that was shown that God will take the the thing that caused them to be stung, the sting of death. He will take that, and the works of Satan and the curse, and nail it to the cross, and he will redeem you. So when they look on it, they will see the redemptive work which will cause them to be delivered. So when you look at the redemptive work of Christ, is really showing that he has taken the sting of death, which is the curse, and moved it out of the way, because I mean the law, and moved it out of the way. Why? Because you was cursed, because you could not continue in all of the
Hey
things.
man, I gotta roll, man. Man, I want to say on, but I gotta roll, bro.
Okay, go ahead, brother. You can go ahead and say what you got to say if you want to say something else.
All right, no, not on it, man. I did that more, but yeah, I gotta be able to roll. But yeah, I'll
Okay,
definitely listen to it in the morning.
okay. Grace and peace to you, brother.
Yeah, peace.
And so it says, but now once in the end of the world have he appeared to put away sin by the sacrifice of himself, and as is appointed to man once to die, but after that the judgment. So Christ once offered to bear the sins of many, and to them that look for him, he shall appear the second time with sin unto salvation, without sin unto salvation. So clearly, and let's go back to 8 and 13. Now, this is very important. It says, and that he set a new covenant, he have made the first old. So he has made the first old. Now that which decayeth and waxeth old is ready to vanish away. Now, why is this important? Because he says it's ready to vanish away. When will it vanish away? Okay, Hebrews was written before the temple was destroyed. So the temple is still standing at this time. How do we know that? Watch and see what he says here. He says, let's jump up, jump up real quick to show you. All right, let's look at verse 4. This is Hebrews 3, Hebrews 8 and 3, same chapter. For every high priest is ordained to offer gifts and sacrifices, wherefore it is of necessity that this man have somewhat also to offer. Watch what it says. For if he were on earth, who is he talking about? Christ. He should not be a priest, seeing that there are priests that offer gifts according to the law. So what is he telling you? At that very present time that he's writing this, if Christ was on earth, he should not be a priest, seeing that there are priests that offer gifts according to the law. So the priesthood, so the temple was still standing at that time when the author of Hebrews is writing, and he's telling you that if Christ was on the on the earth, it says he should not be a priest, seeing that there are priests that offer gifts according to the law. So therefore, they were still offering gifts according to the law when the book of Hebrews was written. So we see, if you go down, the last thing that had to be dealt with that came up under the blood. Remember, there were four things we just read in the chapter 9 that came over that the blood that came up under the blood. It was the vessels, the tabernacle, the people, and also the book. Four things. When he sprinkled the blood on those four things, that is the stuff that is a joint to the covenant. So the last thing that was to pass away or decay, which was heaven and earth, which is that temple. This is why when you read the book of Josephus, it tells you what heaven and earth is. It was the temple that passed away. So that was the last thing that was sprinkled with the blood. And so when we look at it, that covenant was decaying or passing away. Look what it says. It says, and that he set a new covenant. He made the first old. Now that which decayeth and waxeth old is ready to vanish away. So at his time, the temple was still standing. This is why Christ was not the priest on earth. Why? Because the Levitical priesthood was still there at that time. So we see that's what the scripture is saying. So clearly, what was the caxing and waxing or vanishing away is that heaven and earth, which was that tabernacle. I challenge you to go read Josephus when he talks about the tabernacle and how it was looked at as heaven and earth. It's gonna shock you. You're gonna be like, wow, I never seen that. So the whole time when he's saying heaven and earth, they would have known already. The fact that the veil was rent like that shows you what was going on and the changing or passing away that took place during that time. But the book of Josephus is something you want to go check out. Matter of fact, let's see. I might be able to go there real quick. Hold on. Let me grab this something real quick. Let me get the right. Uh, hold on real quick. Where is it at? I think this is Antiquities 3 181. Let's go there. See, can we find it real quick? Hold on. Go to the library. It's just not. Antiquities book. Let's see. Uh, three. Right. Hold on, guys. Let me see something. Just I should have had this. Let's see, it's in here somewhere. I'm looking for it right now, youngster. That way I can we can read it right now. Just deal with it right now. Bear with me a little bit. Be finna find. Let's see. Okay. Antiquities or see. Three, three, and then one. Mm, that ain't right there. Hold on. Let me get up out of here. Ooh, where is it at? It's right in this chapter somewhere too. It gotta be. Mm. But yeah, we gonna bring this out on this. Where is it at? Let me get up here. Josephus. Josephus, Secret of the Jews, book three. Okay, we in book three. Let's see. Antiquity of the Jews, book three. Let's do this. Book three, chapter. Let's see. I don't know why. You said I know the church body also called the kingdom of God on earth. And I want to definitely bring this out because when I first seen it, I don't know what it's screen. Oh, let me look one more time. I hate when I be doing this. I'm supposed to be marking this stuff down. I'm supposed to be marking this stuff down. So I can always go to it. If anybody know where it's at, let me know in the chat room too. I be hating when people when they make stuff and they don't be giving a source to stuff. I be hating when they be doing that. They just don't be sourcing their information. That'd be the worst thing to me. Ticketies. Ticketies 363. Let's see. Ticketies. Yeah, let's go right here. I got that. Three. What is this? That ain't it. Book three. Ticketies three. Why is this doing? Let me get my pen because this ain't right. Hold on. I don't know what this thing doing right here. The Antiquities of the Jews. Then you go to book three. Uh, chapter two is going in. Yeah, I don't know what's that about, cause it's gotta be wrong. But yeah, let's see. Yeah, I gotta find that. Let's see. Josephus. Mm, I'm determined to find this, y'all. 377. It says the temple was a portal connecting heaven and earth. They called it the net. Yeah, I see that. Yep. And Job, that's what I was looking at that site right there too. But I'm trying to look at where uh it says but went into the tabernacle. Where is it at? Okay, gotta be up here somewhere to see. Mm. Yeah, but here's a read number right here. I wanted to put it on my screen, but the Antiquities of the Jews, book 3, 7, book 3, 7. So, book 3, then let's go to section 7. I think it might be chapter 3. Chapter 3. Uh, book 3. This is stupid and confusing, man. Book 3, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. Let's try 3 and 7. Yeah, that's weird. I don't know what that's about. Okay, I see. Book four, book three. See, we got book three. Then go to seven. Yeah, let's see, seven. Yeah, this is it right here, I think. All right, so let's look at it. This is it right here. Yeah, this is it. Yeah, that's kind of confusing. I gotta learn how to do that right there because they don't have it like it should. It says now this is I'm sorry about that, y'all. So we got it here. Yeah, but yeah, that's it right there. So we gonna go to that one too because it's in those two. Josephus that the veil was composed of four materials representing the four elements. Yep, that's it right there. But let's read this right here. It says, now hereon one may wonder at the ill will which men bear to us, and which they profess to bear on account of our despising that deity which they pretend to honor. For if any one do but consider the fabric of the tabernacle, and take a view of the garments of the high priest, and of those vessels which we make use of in our sacred ministration, he will find that our legislator was a divine man, and that we are unjustly reproached by others. For if anyone do without prejudice and without judgment look upon these things, he will find they were every one made in way of imitation and representation of the universe. When Moses distinguished the tabernacle into three parts, notice he distinguished the tabernacle into three parts. Watch what he did. And allowed two of them to the priest as a place accessible and common. He denoted the land and the sea, these being of general access to all. But he set apart the third division for God, because heaven is accessible to man. And when he ordered, and heaven is inaccessible to man, and when he ordered 12 loaves to be set on the table, he denoted the years as distinguished into many months. By branching out the candlestick into 70 parts, he secretly imitated the decani, or 70 division of the planets. And as to the seven lamps upon the candlesticks, they refer to the course of the planets, and which that is the number. The veils too, which was composed of four things. They declared the four elements, for the fine linen was proper to signify the earth, because the flax grows out of the earth. The purple signified the sea, because that color is dyed by the blood of the seashell fish. The blue is fit to signify the air, and the scarlet will naturally be an indication of fire. That these, the vestment of the high priest, being made of linen, signified the earth. The blue donated the sky, being light like lightning in its pomegranates, pomegranates, and in the noise of the bells resembling thunder. And for the ephod, it showed that God had made the universe of four elements. As for the gold interwoven, I suppose it related to the splendor by which all things are enlightened. He also appointed the breastplate to be placed in the middle of the ephod to resemble the earth, for that has the very middle place of the world, and the girdle which encompassed the priests round signifies the ocean, for that goes round about and includes the universe. Each of the Saradoxes declares to us the sun and the moon, those I mean that were in the nature of buttons on the high priest's shoulders, and for the 12 stones, whether it be understood by them the months, or whether we understand the like number of the signs of the circle, which the Greeks call the zodiac. We should not be mistaken in their meaning. As for the Mercury, which was a blue color, it seems to me to mean heaven, For how otherwise could the name of God be inscribed upon it? And you know what's another thing we could bring out about that too, because if you notice something, he's showing you that not only did the tabernacle signify heaven and earth, but what the priests had on signified heaven and earth too. And so what's very important about that is that he says, seeing that the priesthood has changed, there is a necessity to change the law. So when he says heaven and earth, that also signifies not just the tabernacle, but also I'm gonna go to that one too, youngster. It also signifies the priesthood too, the changing of the priesthood. Um, and so when you look at it, it's on point, showing you what heaven and earth is. So when you look at it, it says, "In that he said a new covenant, he had made the first old, that which decayeth and waxed old is ready to vanish away." Because remember, I told you in verse 4 that the priest and the tabernacle was still standing at that time. And so it says, verse 4, it says, "For if he were on earth, he should not be a priest, seeing that there are priests that offer gifts according to the law." But we see that was passing away, right? And then we also see in verse 2, it says, it talks about, chapter 7, it talks about uh, verse 11, "If therefore the perfection were by the Levitical priesthood, for under it the people received the law. But for the need was there that another priest should rise after the order of Melchizedek." Look what it says, verse 12. "For the priesthood being changed, there is made a necessity, a change also of the law." So clearly, we see that this is what Josephus is actually referencing. And so at that time, they would have understood the tabernacle and also the certain things that they wore was symbolic of heaven and earth, and these things actually passing away. But let's deal with that War of the Jews, book 5:3. Uh, let's see. Then it has also, so we went to 3. Let's see what this is right here. Yeah, so we read that. So let's go to also the this War of the Jews and get that one. It's another one too that talks about the curtain. It explains all the curtain, but we see how the temple work was looked at as heaven and earth. Um, book 5. Let's see. The War of the Jews. Yeah, yeah. That's what it's for. When they bring out that Matthew 5:17, showing you what heaven and earth was at that time. That's correct, youngster. The War of the Jews. Let's look at 5, and I guess let's see 2 and 2. Let's see. I really don't know what that because some of these books is different. It ain't it don't read right. 5222. 5212. Let me look at that again. War of the Jews. 5 5. Then chapter 2. Let's go section 1. And then let's go section 2. Oh. 512. Let's see if this is right. Yeah, I'm gonna have to do because I don't know how they that's what it confuses me because how it's reading like that. Like some of them just read straight up to where you can find them, but this let me look at something real quick. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know how they got that read. Let's move this out the way right here. Move this over. Because I think this is in regards of the curtain, matter of fact. All right, so let's go up. The War of the Jews. And you got book 5. I went to 5. That's book 5. And I guess that's chapter 2, section 1. Yeah, I just got to reading that one right there. So I read that one. But I'm trying to figure out this one right here talks about the curtain. But I just gotta know how this. I think that's stupid how they got this stuff. Like it's weird. 5212. I was just talking about. Let's see. I think it might be talking about chapter 5, and then 2. Yeah, that's what it is. Chapter 5, 2. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, that's what it is. Okay, so now I think I got it. Try 212. Yeah, the description of the temple. Yeah, this is it. So that's how you gonna read. You gonna read chapter 5. Why is this saying book 5? It should say chapter 5 and then section 2. Section 2 all the way to 12. Oh, okay, I got it. Chapter 5, section 2, 12 through 22. That's what it is. 12 through 22. Section 2, 12 through 22. Yeah, because this talks about, yeah, so I got it now. So let's keep going all the way down. Because there's numbers. Uh, uh, that ain't right. That still ain't right because these numbers ain't on there right. It says that's current. Okay, here it is right here. All right, that's it. All right, so uh let's go to the beginning right here. 4. Yeah, I don't get that. I don't know why they did that like this, but this is weird how they got that. It must be another book, another what you call that has something different. It says this is the Wars of the Jews, chapter 5, section 3. Well, I'm in section 4 actually. Yeah, this is chapter 5, section 4. It says, as to the holy house itself, which was placed in the midst of the innermost court, that most sacred part of the temple, it was ascended by 12 steps, and in front of its height, as its breadth was equal, and each 100 cubits through, though it was behind 40 cubits narrow. On each front, it had what may be styled shoulders on each side that passed between cubits farther. Its first gate was 70 cubits high and 25 cubits broad, but this gate had no doors, for it represented the universal visibility of heaven, and that it cannot be excluded from any place. Its front was covered with gold all over, and through it the first part of the house that was more inward did all of it appear, which as was very large, so did all the parts about the more inward gate appear to shine to those that saw them. But then, as the entire house was divided into two parts within, it was only the first part of it that was open to our view. Its height extended all along to 90 cubits in height, and its length with 50 cubits, and breadth of 20. But that gate, which was at the end of the first part of the house, was, as we have already observed, all over covered with gold, as it was the whole wall about. It had a golden vines about it, from which clusters of grapes hung as tall as a man's height. But then this house, as it was divided into two parts, the inner part was lower than the appearance of the outer, and had golden doors of 50 cubits. Continue to go down. Let's go down. It says it was a Babylonian curtain embroidered with blue and fine linen and scarlet and purple, and of a contexture that was truly wonderful, nor was the mixture of the colors without its mystical interpretation, but was a kind of image of the universe. For by the scarlet there seemed to be emblematically signify fire, by the five flax of the earth, by the blue the air, and by the purple the sea, two of them having their resemblance of the foundation of this resemblance. But the five flax and the purple have their own origin of the foundation of the earth, producing the one and the sea of the other. This curtain had embroidered upon it all that was mystical in the heavens, accepting that of the 12 signs representing living creatures. So I don't know if that helps out a little bit, but that's somewhat of what I wanted to bring out. I didn't got sleepy and tired, so I feel laid down, fellas. I'm sorry I'm yawning in y'all face, but I got laid down. I gotta get up in the morning. And grace and peace to you, brothers, man. And let me see if there's anything that I need to. Yeah, section 5. Let's see. Yeah, here it is. When any person entered into the temple, its floor received them. The part of the temple, therefore, was in height 60 cubits, and its length the same, whereas its breadth was about 20 cubits, but still that cubits in length was divided again, and the first part of it was cut off at 40 cubits. And had in three things that were very wonderful and famous among all mankind: the candlestick, the table of showbread, and the altar of incense. Now the seven lamps signified the seven planets, for so many there were springing out of the candlestick. Now the 12 loaves that were upon the table signified the circle of the zodiac and the year. But the altar of incense, by its 13 kinds of sweet smelling spices, which the sea represented, signified that God is the possessor of all things that are both inhabitable and habitable, and parts of the earth, and that all and that they all are all to be dictated to his use. So yeah, so clearly, we kind of get the understand of this. Yeah, I appreciate you helping me, brother, because you know, I was sleepy. Yeah, but thank you for helping me find that. But yeah, so when you look at the idiom of heaven and earth, I'm saying this is what this is talking about the temple. So when you go back to Hebrews, when you see that he's uh talking about the patterns is on the priest, and also just dealing with the tabernacle, and also dealing with the passing away, you can clearly see what it's talking about. It's talking about the priesthood, and also the the what's called at that time. Now remember, when you say the passing away, it's in the sense of the changing. I'm saying the changing of a thing, not that it's going to pass away to where it won't be no more Levitical priests, because we see that it will be Levitical priests, but there will be a higher order that's higher than the Levitical priesthood, which will be the Melchizedek, after the order of Melchizedek, which is a higher order, because that is the priestly king order. Because remember, Melchizedek was a priest and king, so now it shows the joining of what Zechariah was talking about, with the order of the king and the order of the priest together now, which is the order that is a Melchizedekian order. That's what that's talking about. But we ain't gonna deal with that this time. But let me see if I answered some of the brothers' questions concerning. All right, then, Andrew. Okay, he said Romans 6 to 13 to be exact. And so we dealt with, I mean, we dealt with Hebrews 6 to 13, and okay, Hebrews 8, and what that was dealing with was but now have he obtained a more excellent ministry, by now much also he is the mediator of a better covenant, which was established upon better promises. Notice he says, of a better covenant, which was established upon better promises. When was it established? It was established when he shed his blood. Remember, a testament is in force after the testator is put to death, and Christ was definitely put to death. So he established better promises. We see that the first covenant was found to be uh, it had fault in it because of they sinned. Israel sinned. Since for the first covenant had been faultless, we know it wasn't faultless because Israel sinned. God found fault with them. He said, "Behold, the days come that He will establish a new covenant." Christ is that new covenant that it's talked about. So we look at Isaiah 42:6. It says, "I, the Lord, have called thee in righteousness, and will hold thine hand, and will keep thee, and give thee for a covenant of the people, for a light of the Gentiles." That's talking about Christ. So Christ is that covenant. So Israel, they rejected the the cornerstone, according to Romans chapter 9. Romans 9, and you go to the bottom, it says, it says, verse 32, Romans 9:32, wherefore, because they sought it not by faith, but as it were by the works of the law of Moses. For they stumbled at that stumbling stone. Look what it says, verse 3. As it is written, behold, I lay in Zion a stumbling stone and a rock of offense, and whosoever believeth on him shall not be ashamed. So, that's the deal with that. But with that being said, man, grace and peace to you, brothers, man. Good night, man. I'm finna go in this back cave and go to sleep, man. It's 12:51, and your boy gotta get up. You feel me? But yeah, I'm gonna have to start back getting on my page again and doing some stuff with you brothers. So just bear with me. You know what I'm saying? So let's see. But yeah, so that's it, man. Hopefully, man, y'all can get that. I'm sorry, man, I didn't have that stuff down, but hopefully I get better with my notes, man, that way I can have this stuff ready for y'all. But hey, God bless you, Movie Joey, man. God bless you, youngster. God bless you to the family out there that listen in. But yeah, so the brother, all right, good night, Rogan. The brother, Abiyah got caught lacking, you know what I'm saying, when it comes to these scriptures. Leon, good night. And so, uh, clearly, when we look at this text, he made a lot of mistakes. I really wanted to deal with it, and put his video side by side, and kind of deal with some of the stuff that he was bringing out, because his arguments is kind of real easy to come across. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, to really deal with. It's real easy stuff. It's the average, you know what I'm saying, stuff that we dealing with, basically. I wanted to bring out one more thing too. This it was what was it? Deuteronomy 14. Let's look at Deuteronomy 12 real quick. I wanted to bring out that Deuteronomy 12. Now, when you look at Deuteronomy 12:2, it says, "Ye shall utterly destroy all the places wherein the nations which ye shall possess serve their gods, upon the high mountains and upon the hills and under every green tree. And ye shall overthrow their altars and break their pillars and burn their groves with fire. And ye shall hew down the graven images of their gods and destroy the names of them out of that place." Look what he says. Ye shall not do so unto the Lord your God. So he's telling them, you're not to go and offer every place and everywhere on these high hills like these people do. But look what he says. This is for everybody that's thinking they can keep the Passover outside of the land, according to the law of Moses. They lying. Look what it says. But into the place which the Lord your God shall choose out of all your tribes to put his name, there, even unto his habitation shall ye seek and come, and I mean shall ye seek, and thither shalt thou come, and thither shall ye bring your burnt offerings and your sacrifice and your tithes and your heave offerings of your hand and your vows and your freewill offerings and the firstlings of your herds and of your flocks. And there shall ye eat before the Lord your God, and ye shall rejoice in all that ye put your hands unto, ye and your households wherein the Lord thy God have blessed thee. Ye shall not do after all the things that we do here this day. Notice he says, ye shall not do after all the things we do here this day. Every man whatsoever is right in his own eyes. For ye are not as yet come to the rest and inheritance which the Lord your God giveth you. But when ye go over Jordan and dwell in the land which the Lord your God giveth you to inherit, and when ye give it, he giveth you the rest of all your enemies round about, so that ye dwell in safety, then there shall be a place which the Lord your God shall choose to cause his name to dwell there. Thither shall ye bring all that I command you, your burnt offerings, your sacrifice, your tithes, your heave offerings, and all your choice vows which ye vow unto the Lord. So clearly, you can't be doing these other things when you ought to bring all of these things to these places. Now let's look what it says. This as well. I gotta plug this up because this gonna go dead. It's taking me a while to find it. The plug. Right, there we go. And ye should, and it says in your, okay, so you can't do that. So look what he says here. It's verse 13. Take heed to thyself that thou offer not thy burnt offerings in the place that thou seest, but in the place which the Lord your God shall choose in one of thy tribes. There shalt thou offer thy burnt offerings, and there shalt thou do all that I command thee. Notwithstanding, thou mayest kill and eat flesh in all thy gates. So you can kill and eat flesh in all thy gates, but when it comes to the holy things, you have to eat those things before the Lord and where he chooses to put his name at. And so, you cannot be doing those things like they try to tell you that you can do. They just off on that, man, and they need to get that together. And so this is why when you look in the when you look in Zechariah, it says that the nations are going to come up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles before the Lord. You're not going to be offering on the hills or doing this and that. That's pertaining to the Passovers and stuff like that. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 14. Let's see, Deuteronomy 14. Let's see, where is it at? In verse 23, it says, Deuteronomy 14 and 23, and thou shalt eat before the Lord thy God in the place which he shall choose to place his name. When you read in Solomon, it tells you where he placed his name at and where he placed where you was supposed to be sacrificing at. He said that the house of sacrifice was that what Solomon built. He should choose to place his name, the tithe of the corn, and all those different things. So, you know, it's clear you can't keep the Passover, none of those things outside of the land. You should be keeping those things in the land. But let me look for the one where it talks about the Passover too, because I don't want to let nothing go unturned. Because a lot of people try to say, "We didn't say the Passover," you know what I'm saying? But let's go to it and find that one too, because brothers be trying to be real slick, but we like concrete. We ain't let nothing slide. You know what I'm saying? Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. Hold on, real quick. This is Deuteronomy 16, right? Now, if you look at it, this is Deuteronomy 16 and 1. It says, yeah, Christ is definitely our Passover up under the New Testament. And but according to the law of Moses, you got to offer if you're up under that testament according to that law. But up under the New Testament, Christ is our Passover. Observe the month of Abib and keep the Passover unto the Lord thy God. For in the month of Abib, the Lord thy God brought thee forth out of Egypt by the night. Thou should therefore sacrifice the Passover unto the Lord thy God of the flock and the herd. Look what it says. In the place which the Lord shall choose to place his name there. Thou shalt eat no leavened bread with it 7 days. Shalt thou eat unleavened bread, even the bread of affliction, for thou camest forth out of the land of Egypt in haste. Thou mayest remember, it says, thou mayest remember the day when thou camest forth out of the land of Egypt all the days of thy life. And there should be no leavened bread seen within thee in all thy coasts in 7 days, right? Look what it says, verse 5. Thou mayest not sacrifice the Passover within any of thy gates. Look what it says again. Thou mayest not sacrifice the Passover within any of thy gates, which the Lord thy God giveth you. Look what it says. But at the place which the Lord thy God shall choose to place his name in, there thou shalt sacrifice the Passover at even, at the going down of the sun, at the season that thou camest forth out of Egypt. So you can't do that. All right, so let's look at Malachi 1 and 11. Now, let's look at simple. Who is there even among you that would shut the doors for naught? Neither do ye kindle fire on my altar for naught. I have no pleasure in you, said the Lord of hosts, neither will I accept an offering at your hand. From the rising of the sun even until the going down of the same, my name shall be great among the Gentiles, and in every place incense shall be offered unto my name, and a pure offering, for my name shall be great among the heathen, saith the Lord. But ye have right from the rising of the sun until the going down of the same, my name should be great among the Gentiles, and in every place incense should be offered to my name, and a pure offering. For my name should be great among the heathen, said the Lord of hosts. But ye have profaned it, and ye say that the table of the Lord is polluted, and fruit thereof his meat is thus ye brought an offering. Should I accept this of your hand? But cursed be the city which hath in his flock the male and the violent sacrifice. So this is a prophecy from the rising down. I have no pleasure in you, said the Lord, from the rising of the sun, even until the going down of the same. My name shall be great among the Gentiles, and in every place incense shall be offered unto my name, and a pure offering for my name shall be. Let's see something real quick. Meat offering, present sacrifice. Let's put this out the way real quick. Incense, sacrifice, sacrifice. Let's see what the stone to knock say right there. See. Ye have polluted bread upon my altar, and ye wherein you say, have we polluted thee? And if ye offer the blind for sacrifice, is it not evil? And if ye offer the lame and sick, is it not evil? For from the rising of the sun even until the going down of the same, my name should be great among the Gentiles, and in every place incense, and every place it should be offered unto my name. So we know this is a future thing. Let's see if we gonna be, because I know Zachariah said we're gonna be going to keeping the feast, so we got to get some understanding, see what does this actually mean. Let's see. Offering, present, gift, oblation, sacrifice, meat, donation, tribute, specifically a sacrificial offering, usually both bloodless and voluntary, gift, oblation, meat, offering, present, sacrifice. See something real quick. What is this? Let's see. So yeah, this is unfulfilled. This is not fulfilled. Three predictions unfulfilled from the rising of the sun to the going down. The same. The name of the Lord should be great among the Gentiles, and every place incense should be offered a pure offering. My name should be great among the heathen. This verse will be literally fulfilled in the millennium under Christ. It teaches a universal pure religion among all nations. A pure offering. So we're going to see that. Let's look at something real quick. Zechariah. So in the future, we're going to offer incense and pure offerings. Let's look at Zechariah something real quick. It should come to pass everyone that is left out to the nations. This is Zechariah 14 to 16. It should come to pass everyone that is left after the nations, which came up against Jerusalem, should even go up from year to year to worship the King of the Lord of hosts, and to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. And it should be that whosoever will not come up of all the families of the earth into Jerusalem to worship the King of the Lord of hosts, even upon him should be no rain. So we know we're going to be keeping the Feast of Tabernacles, and the pots of the Lord are going to be full. Yea, every pot in Jerusalem and in Judea shall be holiness unto the Lord. There's going to be different types of worship here. in the Millennium Kingdom. But yeah, let's see, the Eucharist Stevie Ray. I'm gonna check that out. This is the prophecy of the communion of Christ. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna check that out because that yeah, I'm gonna check that out. The Eucharist of Stevie Ray. Grace and peace, man. Which I'll check with y'all the next time.